Welcome back to Homesteading with the Zimmermans, where we work hard and play hard on our little corner of land in Iowa. My husband and I were born and raised Old Order Mennonite, or horse and buggy Mennonite, as some refer to them as. And although we are no longer part of that culture or community, we are intentional about passing on the old-fashioned skills of our childhood to the next generation. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Homesteading with the Zimmermans. In today's episode, I am wondering if you're happy that this is not another canning video. We have been canning all of September. That's all we do in September. And as you can see, even though this is not a canning video, I have not stopped canning. But the garden is coming to an end, and I've still got some things out there. We're still working on things. I'll be heading down there shortly, and then I'll show you around a little bit. But hot peppers, I have loads and loads of them. And one of the things that I like to do with hot peppers is make fire cider. Now, if you're not familiar with fire cider, it's an immune boosting tonic that's very easy to make at home. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about growing up in the Mennonite culture and what it looks like, what healthcare looks like in the Mennonite culture. And I'm going to be making two things that are staples in our home during the winter time. The one product or the one thing I have not made in years because I've not had babies. But now our grandson is here and I am going to make some for him. So what brought this all to a head is our family picked up a virus and it seems to be fairly mild. Some of our community has been testing positive for the well-known virus, which now just gets treated like a flu. And apparently, that's what they say anyway. And as soon as you've been fever-free for 24 hours, you can return to your work and school. So no, none of us got tested. We've always just treated it as a virus. So the symptoms are headache, low-grade fever, congestion, and the fever is lasting for anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. But it sent me to my Remedies cupboard, and I took note of what I need to make to get us through this flu season. So we're going to be making fire cider, and I have to go to town for piano lessons, which means I can then grab the ginger. That is the one thing I do not have. Well, I did have ginger, and then I gave it to my daughter because she needed it for a recipe, and I said, I really don't know why I have this ginger, because I normally don't buy ginger unless I'm planning to use it. And I forgot that I was planning to make fire cider, so I have to pick up ginger, but it's not a big deal. So on Instagram and other social media platforms, I have not been able to share remedies without them getting taken down by Instagram mostly. Or and when a video gets taken down, then your account gets shadow banned. So I am not sure how YouTube works. So if it seems to you like I'm talking in code, it's only because I don't want the video to get taken down or get demonetized. I really don't know how that works here on YouTube. But I know on Instagram, they don't want anyone doctoring themselves or promoting immune boosting or, you know, things like that. I'm not allowed to show that on Instagram. So in the Mennonite culture that I grew up in, which is a very traditional culture, the Old Order Mennonites, the ones that drive horse and buggies, very similar to Amish. That's the culture I grew up in. And not all Mennonites are like this with their health care. But it's against the rules of the church for any of their members to have health insurance. So what they do is they have a private insurance, and everybody donates money toward this fund. And I'm sure there's a name for it. I just can't think of it right now. There's a fund that they then draw out of to help people cover large medical bills. But your deductible is very, very high. So doctor visits never covered. You know, maybe, and I'm not even sure how they figure out the deductive. I think they look at your yearly income and then decide if you can pay it or not. And I'm going to try to be very matter of fact and not, you know, be bitter or disrespectful about any of this. If you're not in good standing with the church, meaning if you're a member but you haven't been, you know, faithfully following all the rules, you might not get as much money towards your medical bills as somebody that has consistently followed all the rules. It's very wrong. From a Christian perspective, I'm just going to say it's very wrong. But I believe that this created, on the good side, even though that's all wrong, the good thing that I see now, having been out of that culture, being removed from that culture for 17 some years, I can see that it created a culture where the members do not depend on the medical, you know, they don't depend on the doctors and for every little thing. Like it created a culture where everybody learns and tries to help themselves as much as possible. Last resort is always going for a doctor visit and getting antibiotics. That only happens when you've tried everything else, because you know when you go to the doctor, you're going to be paying out of pocket. So it created a culture of self-help, and where even though they only go to school for 8 years, every mother tries their best to educate themselves on how to heal different things, how to treat different things, all of that. Like, it's part of being a mother, is learning, educating yourself on how to doctor your family. And I learned from my mother and my grandmother, and a lot of things I learned on my own. So when we first entered the modern world, one of my biggest learning curves was, one of the biggest learning curves as a mother in this new modern world and community was the fact that when somebody was sick with a virus, they were expected to stay home almost like they would have had something dangerous, right? And this was long before the virus that shall not be mentioned. This was way back in, say, 2009, 2010. So the difference is, in the modern world, I noticed that when people got sick with a virus, a cold or a stomach flu, it was treated as if it was extremely dangerous, and they stayed home, isolated themselves. Whereas in the Mennonite culture, it was more treated as, people didn't try to get sick, but they were not scared of getting sick. So part of this, I believe, is due to all mothers stay at home with their families. So if a child is sick, a mother does not need to take time off of work to stay home with that child. So there's that cultural difference. Whereas in the modern world, the non-Mennonite world, where mothers work outside of the home, when a child is sick, it often means time off of work, you know, because the children can't go to daycare or school when they're sick. So there's that. But the other cultural difference when it came to viewing viruses was, it seemed that in the Mennonite culture, they weren't scared of their children being sick, because they seemed to understand that, number one, they weren't scared because they knew how to treat them. They knew about the immune system and how to boost it and how to treat it. And number two, they seem to understand that when my child gets sick, it does not mean that something is wrong. All these symptoms I'm seeing are just the immune system at work, and the immune system needs practice to get strong. Just like any other muscle in the body, an immune system needs practice fighting off viruses to become stronger, right? So those are some major differences there cultural wise, and it all stems back to, in the Mennonite culture that I grew up in, nobody wanted to go to the doctor. It all came down to that. And so I had to really, really learn that when my children were sick, my new modern community felt concerned and like I was being careless when I didn't keep them isolated at home. So I had to learn that. That was a huge learning curve for me, and it still is to this day, because I'm not, like, I still have a hard time remembering that most people are scared of their children getting a common cold. Like, that really frightens most people. Like, it's really hard for me to remember that. But I do my best. I do my very best, and I can't even tell you how many times I've gotten a call from a teacher saying, your child is coughing too much. You need to come, pick them up. And I'm like, oh, Ruth Ann, you got to remember, this is not the community. This is not the culture that you grew up in. This is a different culture. So that's the culture I grew up in. And it all stems back to the two major differences between the two cultures are the Mennonite culture. They want to stay out of the doctor's office, like the Mennonite culture that I grew up in. Not saying they're all that way. My culture that I grew up in, they want to stay out of the doctor's office as much as possible. They don't want antibiotics. They don't want to be charged for an office visit. And then the other side of that culture is most people nowadays have free health care for their children, so it costs them nothing. They can step inside urgent care and the emergency room and a doctor's office, and it costs nothing. So there's no motivation for parents to learn to treat themselves or their children for common illnesses. So the only thing they know is the doctors. Now, I mean no disrespect for doctors and nurses, because Harrison and I would not be here if not for great doctors and nurses. Harrison had long story short, Harrison and I neither one of us would be here if it wasn't for some awesome doctors and nurses. And I know there is great doctors and nurses out there, and there's some of you that are watching, and you're wonderful at it. I'm just saying the system is broken. It's not you, it's the system. The system is broken. So there is a little bit of, maybe that'll help you understand the culture that I came from and why we are more focused on learning to treat viruses than we are on running to the doctor's office. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is a very simple garlic salve for infants. And I'm also going to put this in an email. I don't know if this video will get demonetized. I have no idea how that works, but I guess I won't know until I try. I'm also going to be putting these recipes in an email, so make sure that you're signed up for our email list, and I'll put that link at the very top of this description. And That way, if this gets demonetized or taken down, I don't know, you'll have access to it in email. Very first thing I'm going to make is a simple garlic salve, and it's very simple, and it's for infants, and it works wonders. Well, my aprons are all so filthy because, like I said, I have been canning up a storm. But we need to go to town later today, so I don't want to have to change clothes. And I'm a messy cook, y'all know that. So, an apron it is. So the very first thing that I'm going to get is some tallow. I need, let's see if I can do this. I need about 1/3 cup of tallow. You can use coconut oil if you don't have tallow. That might be a little much. Okay, I've got my tallow. The next thing I need is 2 tablespoons of liquid oil. You could use olive oil. I'm using jojoba oil. And 1, 2. The jojoba oil that I'm using, I have some rose hips in here because I plan to use this jojoba oil to make our lotion and our skin moisturizer. But you can just use plain down olive oil. And this recipe is adapted from the original recipe, which belongs to Rachel Weaver, and she wrote the book, How to Be Your Own Doctor. So I adapted it from her recipe to fit my family's needs. So you can use coconut oil and olive oil. And the only other thing that you need is 6 to 8 cloves of garlic. And you're going to put those in there, and you're going to blend it all up really well. You can use a big blender if you need to. I just find this easier because there's not enough of this to really work in my big blender. So one of the things that you can do is you can set this in warm water until it becomes liquid, and then you can strain it through a fine mesh strain and strain out all the pieces of garlic. I don't do that, but the reason that you might want to do that is if you have fair-skinned babies with sensitive skin. And one of the things to try if your baby has sensitive skin and gets a rash from the garlic is to dilute it with more coconut oil or tallow. Like, just dilute the garlic more. You can store this in the refrigerator all winter and just use it generously. At the first sign of the sniffles or, you know, a cold coming on, use it every time you nurse that baby. I'll show you how I use it on Winston when I go see him in a little bit. The soles of their feet. The other thing is, if they continue to get a rash even after it's diluted, and it's just like a contact rash. It's not, I've never seen where they, where it open, you know, where it's real serious. It's just that their skin gets irritated from the garlic. If that's the case, when you put it on their chest and their back, just put it on the soles of their feet. I would, when my babies were little, like if it was flu season and they were struggling with a cold, I would keep it on the chair where I would keep it right next to my breastfeeding chair. And every time I sat down to nurse them, I would put it on the soles of their feet. Every time I changed their diaper, I put it on their back and their chest. And there you go. That is garlic salve. That is that remedy. Well, this is straight from the fridge, so it's going to look a little harder than what I just made, because this was what I made for Tina yesterday. Oh, is that cold? So put it on the bottom of their feet. Tickle, tickle, tickle. Tickle, 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 tickle. Oh, oh. Ho, ho, ho. And then we're going to put the socks on. Ready? What? What's Mom doing? What's Mom doing? All right. Hi. And we're going to put some on your back. Oh, is that cold? Is that cold? Yeah. And put some on your belly. Here we go. Did you find Mama? Huh? Oh. Tickle, 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 tickle. Tickle, tickle, tickle. Oh, better. Oh, better. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What do you think? What do you think? What? So garlic is actually very antiviral. It has antiviral properties, and that is why it works for the coughs and cold and sniffles. And like, it doesn't take long when you start reading about garlic for you to know that you want it at your fingertips all flu season long. Has antiviral properties. It's been known to treat even bacterial infections that have become immune to antibiotics. But like I said, I don't know how much I can say on here without getting in trouble with alphabet agencies and the powers that be that don't want us to know how to treat ourselves. So next we are headed to the garden. We're going to make fire cider. I grew up having to take fire cider, and I say having to take because it really is, it carries a powerful punch. Growing up we called it super tonic, and that was the recipe that my mom used. It was just called super tonic. So we need hot peppers from the garden and horseradish. That's the other thing we need. So I have a horseradish plant growing back here, just for this reason, because I use some of its roots each fall to make us some, the ground is so hard. I should have wore some shoes. Let's see what we've got. Not what I wanted. I just pulled the... Okay, there's a nice root. Oh, you're a noisy donkey. I should have probably brought a shovel instead of a fork. Oh, yeah. Score! Okay, there I've got my horseradish. I've got onions up at the house. my veggies ready to chop. I scrubbed the horseradish. We're gonna get the peppers in first. I'm gonna try not to touch more of these seeds than I have to, because I don't want my hands to be burning for the rest of the day. And I don't know exactly what kind of hot peppers these are, but they were rated to be about the same as jalapenos. So any kind of hot pepper will do. Just remember that the hotter they are, the less you'll need of them. And I'm just gonna coarse chop all of my veggies. I guess I'm gonna find out exactly how hot these peppers are. So you wanna shoot for about equal amounts of peppers and onions and garlic, but it's really not gonna hurt much if you don't have equal amounts, as long as you have some of the main, as long as you have the main ingredients, which I'll print out, I'll make a printable recipe for you. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do the onion next. And I have one purple onion left. So we're gonna add that one next. And then we're gonna add the horseradish. My horseradish plant is still fairly young. You can tell by how tiny the roots are. I think it's about 2 years old, and it doesn't grow very fast because I always take some of its roots every fall. But you can buy horseradish at the store. I'm fairly certain you can buy raw horseradish at your grocery store. So that's why I'm going a little light on the horseradish, is because I don't have a lot of it. And the other thing that you can add, now this is optional, is lemon. I think I'm gonna put that around the side then. I add lemon if I have it. If I don't have it, I don't worry about it. Okay, because that little purple onion was so small, I'm gonna add some more onion. Purple onions are my go-to. They would be my first choice, but if you just have white onions, that's okay. And purple onions are just stronger. And the darker something is in color, usually the more antioxidants it has. So that's why I go for purple onions whenever I can, when I'm making home remedies. All right, now we're gonna add our garlic. I'm adding 2 whole bulbs of garlic. And my garlic is really big. Okay, so I'm just gonna crush the garlic. Number one, garlic peels easier when it's crushed, and it releases more of its potency if it's crushed. All right, your basics are hot peppers, onions, garlic, horseradish, and ginger. Now I have to go to the grocery store and get ginger still, and also the apple cider vinegar that I have on hand is not raw apple cider vinegar, and because I've been using it for canning, and it doesn't really matter if you use it for, if you have raw or not when you're using it for canning, because when you water bath something or cook something, you're pasteurizing the vinegar anyway. And if I wasn't going to the grocery store, I would probably just use the apple cider vinegar that I have, but because I have to go anyway for ginger, I'm going to wait and use and buy raw apple cider vinegar. And then I'll show you those steps. But for now, I'm gonna lay this on here so I don't forget. I wanna cover it with this because the lid that goes with this jar has a little bit of rust on, and I don't want that to react to with my vinegar. So I'm just going to do this then to kind of protect that from the rust. So, isn't it pretty? I will be back. All right, we are back from town. I got my ginger and my raw apple cider vinegar. So we are just going to add those to this. I really hate peeling ginger, and I know people have said that you can do it with just a spoon, but I don't know where this ginger has been. So I'm going to peel it the best I can. So I've tried with a spoon, and I don't like peeling ginger with a spoon. So some may ask why I don't grow my own ginger, and the reason is that ginger grows in zones 8 through 12, and we are growing zone 4. So it gets much too cold here for me to grow my own ginger root. My only option would be to bring it in the house over winter time, and I've not ever done that, mostly because we need all the floor space we can get with our busy family in our small home during the winter time when we have to all stay indoors a lot more. So when we add the apple cider vinegar, all the goodness, all the health benefits from all of these veggies are going to be released into the apple cider vinegar. Mine always has a tendency of attracting fruit flies. No matter how tight I put the lid on, the fruit flies are just attracted to it. They can't usually get inside. They're just very attracted to it. So I don't like to leave mine on the counter, even though you can leave it in the kitchen counter. I am going to put mine downstairs in the cold room where it's dark, and then every time I go down there to get something, I will just kind of do this, shake it around a little bit, and I'm going to leave it set for anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. The fire cider that we have left from last year should reach us for another month if we don't get another dose of sickness. So after 2 to 6 weeks, you are going to strain this through a mesh strainer, and you can toss all the veggies to the chickens or the pigs, and that liquid that's left is going to be your fire cider. And you can store that in your refrigerator or in your cold room for over a year if you need to. We usually use ours within a year. And then how do we take it? Some people take it as a preventative. We don't. Number one, because the kids don't really like it, which brings me to another point. It's very spicy. It's really hard for little ones to take, but when my children were toddlers now, they take it like a shot and they don't complain too much. It's kind of an acquired taste is what some of them had told me. But when they were little, I would mix it with some raw honey when they were toddlers and preschool age, and they would take it with honey. It tastes like a garlicky, spicy honey, and they would take it that way. So if you have people that have a sensitive palate and can't handle this, this fire cider, just mix it with some honey for them. So then, we don't take it as a preventative. We take it when we feel something coming on. Like say I feel like I'm coming down with something, I will take like an ounce of this right off the bat, and then every hour I'll take like a tablespoon worth throughout the day or whenever I'm, you know, close to the kitchen. And then as long as I feel like I am coming down with something, I'll keep taking like 2 to 3 tablespoons a day. And then we don't take it as long as we feel fine. If the children come to me and say my throat hurts or I kind of have a headache and a stuffy nose, this is always my go-to. This is a great immune booster, and honestly, I think it just knocks whatever, I think it's so potent that whatever is happening, whatever virus is in you, it just knocks it out. And so those are our 2 things. I have some elderberry syrup too, but this is my go-to. I've seen the best results with this. Now, if you've tried Super Tonic or Fire Cider before and haven't had results, my guess is you need to take a bigger dose, because an ounce is a lot more than 1 dropper full. Oh, and there was something else I was going to show you. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm super excited to show you this. This is from Farmhouse Tea, and last fall, I think, I forget, I was not feeling well, and she sent me a care package with some teas in it, and I'm going to link her website. But she's genius. What she has done for you, and I've not yet tried this, I was waiting for the perfect time to share it, and now this is it. She has dehydrated a fire cider mix, and all you have to do with this fire cider, now remember, I'm not affiliated with them, I'm not getting any kickback or any benefits for sharing this with you. I just think she's genius. So in this, it's the same thing I have. Ginger root, horseradish root, onion, she has turmeric in, which I don't, garlic, peppercorns, chili peppers, lemon peel, and orange peel. So basically the same thing I have in there. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to take a quart jar. I'm using this pretty blue quart jar because it has a chip out of the top, so I can't use it for canning. You're going to pour the entire contents of this little pouch. All right, Ruth Ann, don't spill any. And then you're going to take your apple cider vinegar, oh, that's potent. I can smell it already. The turmeric is turning this a lot more yellow. Anyway, we're going to put a lid on this, and then you're going to treat this the same way as we did this. You are just going to twirl it or shake it every once in a while, and at the end of 2 weeks, hers says 2 weeks, probably because this is chopped so fine, it's going to release its nutrients sooner than what these coarse chops will. So this will actually be ready for us to use. And I'll try and remember to come back in another video and compare the two and let you know what I thought. But I will link her store in the description for you. She does a great job with all of her teas. If this home remedies video does well, and if I don't get into trouble for it, I will be back with more home remedies in the future, different ones that we use. But for now, these are my go-tos. And the garlic salve that I made for Winston, I made a bunch for us too, so I'm just going to use it on my school-age children. Whenever they say they're coming down with something, I'm just going to slather them with that. Because, you know, sometimes when you have little ones and then they grow up, you kind of forget. You're like, wait, what did we usually do for a cold? Because once they get old enough where you can give them supplements to boost their immune system, you forget what you used to put on for colds, or I do anyway. And I'm like, oh, here, you can take Super Tonic now, and then I forget about the garlic salve. But I will definitely be using it now that I have it in my fridge. I will be choosing that long before I choose essential oils. Well, good morning. I sat down to finish this video and discovered that I have an email from the lady that makes your fire cider mix, the dried mix that I told you about. Because I reached out to her and said, hey, just wanted to give you a heads up, but I'm going to be mentioning you in this week's YouTube video. And because I made your fire cider, and I talked about it and showed people. And she said, how about we give your followers a discount code? And in addition to that, she said, here's an affiliate link for you. So don't forget to check the description. If you're interested in that dehydrated fire cider mix that I showed you, go to the description. I'll make sure to put it in the very top of the description, and there'll be a coupon code for you as well. And then while you're there, don't forget to check out all her other teas. She really is a wonderful resource to get you through flu season if you don't have access to all the fresh and raw veggies like in your garden or at farmer's market. It is an absolutely gorgeous morning. The sun is up and there's some fog hanging in the valley, and it's going to be a great day. Thank you everybody for being here and for watching. Our YouTube channel has grown beyond what we could have ever imagined. We never even set out to see how big we could grow our subscribers. We just thought it would be a fun thing to play around with and get the kids involved. And so to all of you that come back every week and watch, and even for those that watch occasionally, thank you very much. We really appreciate you. So signing off until next week.